Good morning. I'm Dr. Sunanda Samather Corrado, co-hosting the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford, coming to you live at 10 o'clock every Thursday morning on WJZZ, Cool TV, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Dr. John Telford is a former Detroit Public School superintendent, a former world-class athlete and conqueror of Olympic champions, a championship track coach, poet, newspaper columnist, longtime civil rights crusader, and the author of 6 Detroit-oriented books. The Poet Emperor of Earth, What Old Men Know, Creative Insubordination, The Will Robinson Story, The Poetic Prancings of Mad John, his explosive autobiography, A Life on the Run, and another forthcoming poetry book, Athletes, Activism, and Apple Boughs, a Detroit poetic epic. He also has a show on WCHB AM 1340, Detroit's gospel station, Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. That's Saturday mornings, 9:30, and Monday evenings at 6:30. His books are available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, or just by calling The Good Doctor at 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Dr. John Telford has been called a legend and a lightning rod for controversy. He has received the Detroit City Council Spirit of Detroit Award and Joe Louis Foundation Spirit of the Champ Award. Dr. John Telford was named Wayne State University Alumnus of the Year in 2001, and a Detroit track was named in his honor. His email address is drjohntellfordedd@aol.com. That's drjohntellfordedd@aol.com. Now, without further ado, I present to you that crusading old native Detroiter, Dr. John Telford.
Thank you, Dr. Sunanda Corrado, that PhD from Columbia University, who is an anthropologist by training. Dr. Corrado has been teaching at Wayne County Community College District for over 10 years, and I always marvel at the fact that she's been doing that for 10 years because she looks like she's about 17 years old.
Detroit keeps me young.
Yeah, man, Detroit's making me old, but that's okay. Of course, I'm already
Are
old.
you kidding? You're the youngest person I know in Detroit, Dr. Telford.
86 years old this month.
You're the only one I know. You bring the data forward and you make up your mind. You're the only one I know who changes his mind from one issue to another issue and is not bound by ideology.
Well, okay.
That's the truth.
I'll accept that.
You're a bridge to young people all across the city to this day.
I will agree with that because I do love young people. But
They love
anyway,
we love you.
Dr. Corrado is currently a researcher at the Detroit Equity Action Lab, which is housed in the Wayne State University Law School. And she is the founder and CEO of Education by Design.
I'm going to have to ask Mr. Smith for some consulting for that.
Right.
I'm serious.
Okay, here's my poem, Blue Salt. My name is Detroit. I'm a blue-collar town. Blue salt melts my mid-March snow. Speedy cars and sprinters spring from me, and later on in the show we're going to be talking about that. I father fierce fighters and funky music, and later on in the show we're going to be talking about that. In a Motown moment, I can spit the blues right back in a bureaucrat's eye. Have you never seen blue salt? No complex chemistry here, only the old color of a new sky. And there's a new sky dawning on Detroit today because we have got All-American linebacker from Purdue, Blaine Smith, in the studio, and I'm going to be formally introducing him a little bit later. But you know, Blaine Smith is a guy who tells the truth.
Right?
Yes. He's captain of the Purdue team, and Blaine Smith, I got to tell you this, is a man who always tells the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. He tells the truth, and I'm for truth, no matter who tells it. I'm for justice, no matter whom it is for or against. I'm a human being first and foremost. And as such, I'm for whomever and whatever benefits humanity as a whole. And you know, I'm not just saying that. You know who said that? Because I am quoting El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, a.k.a. Detroit Red. a.k.a. Malcolm Little, and a.k.a. Malcolm X. Uncivil warfare. Uncivil warfare. You know, this is a poetry program, so I got to do some poetry. Uncivil warfare is a poem I wrote on January the 6th, that infamous day, January the 6th, 2021. Because today is January the 6th, 2022, a one-year anniversary. So let me recite this poem. On this evil and fatal occasion of the Capitol building invasion, the traitor Trump's collusion demands his execution. God yet hasn't pushed the lever on the traitor Trump forever. And when he does push that lever, it is to be hoped that the lever is that of the gas chamber. However, if you don't approve of capital punishment, as I do not approve of capital punishment, because too often, we kill the wrong guy, particularly if he's black. But in Trump's case, I do approve of capital punishment.
Definitely not black.
But if you don't approve of it, let's at least put that motherfucker in the goddamn
I love this station.
gas chamber.
So
let's
look at
put
what's
him
happening
in
with
the
Senator
gas.
Cheney.
If we can't put him in the gas chamber, let's put him in federal prison for the rest of his natural life. His thieving,
You saw what's happening
lying,
with
natural life.
You know what's happening with Senator Cheney? I mean, she has always voted straight up on the Republican line on every damn vote.
93%.
Yeah, straight up Republican voter. Why is she on the axe or on the
She's
block
a state
right now?
rep, by the way. She's not.
She's a state rep.
Yeah.
Please forgive me, but
Yeah.
Cheney, Congress, right?
Yeah,
She's
Congress. Yeah,
Congressional.
state. Yeah, she's in the House.
Why is she under fire for trying to take a stand on this one issue when she's followed the Republican line through and through and
Because
through?
she broke with Trump, and that's the acid test for any Republican. She is what they call a rhino, Republican in name only. So
That's right.
you
And
know,
and
but
this
that
is
all you got to
everything in.
do. All you got to do is cross Trump one time, and he hates you.
That's
he
right.
likes sycophants who follows his orders regardless to what it means to the world. And see, I grew up. I grew up in the church, but I'm actually a Star Trek kid.
Yeah.
The good of the many outweighs the good of the few of the one. He's for the one.
Yes.
And I'm never for the one, no matter what it is.
yeah. We can't be. We can't be. And I
No,
can
it's
I can
too
tell
many
more.
other people.
And
That
since,
is not
since
individualism.
Blaine's already talking, I got to formally introduce him.
Yes.
I should have known Blaine would be
Yes.
talking before I introduced him, because Blaine always talks. But this is Blaine Smith, folks. Blaine Smith, who was an All-America linebacker at Purdue University, the captain of the team, and what's more, he signed contracts with 3 NFL teams. The Green Bay Packers, the New York Jets, and the Cleveland Browns. That same Cleveland Browns that starred Jim Brown. You know, the great running back, the great fullback, whom, by the way, I ran against at the Penn relays. You know, I was anchoring the Wayne State 880-yard relay team in the feature event, and Brown was anchoring the Syracuse team. And I can remember because I had some great teammates, and they gave me the lead. I had Bullet Billy Smith, running for me, and Cliff Hatcher, and this guy from the islands named Ralph Williams, who could run like hell. But anyway, they put me in the lead. And so coming around the last turn, third leg was Cliff Hatcher, and he's in the lead. And so they put me in the first lane to get the baton, and they put Jim Brown in the second lane to get the baton because Syracuse was running second. And so Jim Brown said to me just before I got the baton, he said, "Man, you're gonna need that lead." That's why I never forgot it. That's what he said to me, and I said to myself, "Yeah, well, we'll see." And I took off, but I didn't need the lead because I gained on it.
And I think Blaine Smith has one of the greatest longevities of athletic career in football. Like more than 80-90% of people who come through pro football. You've lasted through 3 professional teams.
Yeah, it wasn't long, but like Doc and I, we talk all the time. Just to get there, you're in a 1/10 of a percentile of American boys at that time. So it's something that you love. I've always wanted to do it. Doc was talking about Jim Brown. That was my inspiration.
He was a movie star too. Jim Brown, big movie star.
Yeah, one holiday, my family had the TV on and Jim Brown was playing. Had to be 61, 62. And everybody, my sisters was cheering, which was an oddity for them to be watching a sporting event. Usually we would be watching Wuthering Heights or Heidi or something, but they were cheering for Jim Brown. And I said, who is that guy? They said, that's Jim Brown. And one of my brothers said, he makes about $35,000 a year. I said, how much Daddy makes? Daddy worked at Youngstown Sheet and Tube in East Chicago, Indiana. Yeah. And one of my older sisters said, $1,800. I didn't know the difference. They showed me the difference. And ever since then, I had been doing my push-ups and sit-ups and trying to get ready so I could play football on a bigger scale.
And now you got Blaine Smith and Associates helping other young men find themselves.
Well, we're not getting into that yet because
I'm so excited.
I still got some stuff that I gotta do, you guys.
Yeah.
Because today is January the 6th, 2022, and on January the 6th, 2021, that invasion of the Capitol building was fomented by Trump. But also the day after that, January the 7th, 2021, I lost my wife Adrienne. And I want to recite a poem for Adrienne on the air today. This is a poem for Adrienne. She dreams in raptured reverie of rainbows, rain, and revelry, of scenes unseen and multi-hued by bubbling brooklets never viewed. She roams rainforests, new and green, and drifts down rivers, blue and clean, unlike the Flint River. She sees a white-capped tide arising beneath a bright and wide horizon. She sails celestial starlit seas in universal galaxies.
Man, Adrienne was obviously your muse.
Oh man,
beautiful woman.
I don't want to start crying.
Principal too? She was a principal.
She was principal of Phoenix Middle School in the Detroit Public School District, and she was a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat, man, a passionate Democrat with a small D and a capital D.
She meeting.
No, she never did. Okay, a couple advertisements. Miss Virginia Starkey, fondly known simply as V, the proprietress of V's Boutique, offers a wide range of fine clothing and accessories for ladies. You can find all sizes of women's fine apparel in V's one-stop excellent customer service at V's Boutique that you can't find anywhere else in Detroit anymore. V's is at 16423 East Verner Avenue, and that's right over there by the old Alger Theater and right around the corner from one of the few libraries that's still open in Detroit.
If you got a white party you got to go to in the next few hours, you go to V's Boutique. Oh my God. If you want stone jewelry, natural stone, you go to V's Boutique. If you want to find really, really nicely stylized, selected things by stylists, V has everything bought by stylists, young people who know how clothes fit. Every time I go in there, everything looks brand new on me. I look brand new in it.
And V doesn't have to pay Sunanda for that either.
No,
we're
amazing.
doing this with no charge.
And a sisterhood.
Yeah, man.
Oh, you'll make some friends over there.
Okay, another commercial. Mark Blank Sr. and Mark Blank Jr. run Sinbad's Restaurant at East Jefferson on the Detroit River, in Detroit, on Detroit's east side. It is, and I'm saying this without getting paid to say it, I regard Sinbad's as Detroit's best restaurant. And I say that as a member of the Detroit Yacht Club, and I love the restaurant there. Yes. But I actually think Sinbad's food is equal or better than the food that you get cooked by professional chefs at the Detroit Yacht Club.
The Yacht Club needs some scallops.
So anyway, with that having, it's got some good scallops.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, time for a commercial.
And you're watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe to us and other various programming that we offer here at WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And today we have with us the indomitable Blaine Smith.
Yes, we do. And before Blaine and I get into some of the sports-related poetry and do a little sports show, if we got time to do it, we'll be doing that in a little while. So now, do you want to ask Blaine some questions about his programs?
Oh, goodness, yes. So, last time we were talking about your experience in athleticism and your exploitation as a young athlete through these different
Get close
industries.
to the mic, and then I can hear you.
Through these different industries. And what I really wanted to talk about
closer,
before...
Closer to the mic,
okay.
closer.
So what I wanted to talk about before was this program that you came up with called Blaine Smith and Associates. And it's a training program to create safe school environments. And I am myself personally moved by this because I've got two badass little kids. and I think I take pretty good care of them, but I already see how sensitive male human beings can be. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about what actually started the impetus for this anger management, conflict resolution, and anti-bullying training for students?
It's sort of interesting, and thanks again for having me on the show, Doc and Dr. Sunanda. We know each other personally, but it's always good to be on the show and be seen. But how this started was in 1997, I'm a sales rep for Inland Steel Company, and I got invited over to Rochester High School to give a speech. And it was about getting the children.
When was that?
That would have been 1997 in the spring. And
I was already gone from there. I used to be a deputy superintendent there. Yeah.
But anyway, the guy calls me and say, "Hey, can you come over and talk to our children about success and how to be successful?" And I said, "Yeah," because I had done that since I had worked at Inland Steel. I had worked with children on my own, volunteering as a coach in my old high school in Gary, Indiana. So I put together a speech, and the guy asked me a question which was baffling to me because I had never been paid. He said, "What's your stipend for speaking to children?" I said, "Hey, I got a call from a customer. I'll call you right back." I knew enough not to say and not be informed, so I called Chuck Olson, who worked at Inland Steel at the time, and he booked speakers. And Chuck said, "Blaine, you graduated from Purdue?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You played football from Purdue?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You played in the pros?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Tell him $2,500. So it was only an hour speech, so I couldn't fix my mouth to say $2,500. So I called the guy back. I said, "I can be there early. My fee is $1,750. Guy said, "We'll have the check ready when you come." So I came. I was early. Got there about 7:30 or 8 because I had just left the gym. I'm a gym rat. I'm always shaving my head and face and coming from the gym. Had my suit on, and I'm just sitting in the stands, and children started to drift in, and parents started to drift in. So I talked with them, and then the principal went up and introduced me, and the children didn't know what I was going to say, but they were shocked. So I went through my speech. Guy said, "Man, you're one of the best speakers we've ever had." He said, "Do you do this for a business?" And that's what snapped in my head. I drove down to the state of Lansing, state capital, signed up as Blaine Smith and Associates Incorporated, and the young lady there said, "That's a bad idea to name the business after you." I said, "Why?" She said, "If it fails, your name will be ruined." I said, "It'll never fail." I said, "I may stop doing it, but it'll never fail." And that's what March 6th of 1997, I started Blaine Smith and Associates. I resigned from Inland Steel as a senior sales rep and been doing that up until my mom got sick in Colorado, and I went out there to help her. She was 98 at the time. She passed at 102. So,
she had 17 babies, including you.
She had 17. I'm the 16th of 17 children, and Doc has me finishing my book. I had to also say she really raised 18 children because my niece, Sandra Thompson, has been with us since she was a little old baby, as they would say in the Bible, in swaddling clothes.
That's 18.
So, that's 18 children. And when she passed, I got to say this, at 102, she had over 300 great-greats, and great-great-great-great-grandchildren.
That's incredible. And I want to write an introduction to that book.
You got it, Doc.
What's the title of that book going to be?
Until the Whistle Blows.
Until the Whistle Blows.
Until the Whistle Blows.
The fat lady sings.
No, well, see, I'm an athlete, and no good athlete ever stops doing anything until the whistle blows. That wakes you up from whatever craziness your mind is in a play. When you're pursuing somebody and you keep missing them and you want to kill them, when you hear that whistle go off, no kill. You got to holler no kill and go back to the huddle.
Go ahead.
So how did you go from like this 1 hour motivational speech to setting up a semester's worth of training for young people? This is really intense.
Well, what I realized was that a speech, no matter how good a person is, that's going to catch 1 or 2% of the audience because they want to be caught anyway. But what we're trying to do with the Blaine Smith anger management program is to reach children where they are. And, I've been in Detroit since 1991. Inland moved me up here as a senior sales rep. I was in Chicago. I was in St. Louis. But I was just working in those places. When I came to Detroit, I really put my roots down. And I had been in Detroit since 91. And I'm talking, at schools, and I'm talking at the inner city, I'm talking in the suburbs, and finally it dawned on me that an hour speech or a 30-minute speech will not get 98% of the children. So we sat down and we developed a curriculum with another group of companies. It was a lot of group of companies, and we came up with this idea to really take children through the history of violence in America, the true history of violence in your home, in your community, in your society. And the funny thing is, I grew up, I'm a child of the 50s and 60s, really came to grow in the 70s. You had the church, you had the community, you could still get a whipping if you did something walking home and the neighbors saw you.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you touch a child, you will be shot, maimed, killed, or they will drive by and shoot your house up. And that's where we progress to. So we've got to meet those children there with the Student Personal Development Program is what we call it. And we start where they are and bring them all the way up. We start. Go ahead. Ask the next question.
No, because this is going to go right into it. Because what I see is
mic.
that you're not just dealing with the student, by making it a class in school, you're actually trying to inculcate a school culture of pride where kids can rely and trust each other and create that safe space. I haven't seen this yet.
Beautiful question. A guy who used to work for me, he brought that word to me. Rudy Barker, he's since passed away, comedian. He could do King and King inflection voice so well you thought you were listening to Martin Luther King if you close your eyes. But Rudy was the guy that brought me that word, inculcate. You want to get inside of them. And I tell people, because principals and superintendents will ask me, what is inculcate? I say that's when a person says something in the hall and another child turns to them at whatever age they are and say, look, I don't mean no trouble. I ain't trying to start no beef. But we don't do that here. When a child starts doing that, the culture has changed. We've got to talk about sports, and me and you go a lot with the Lions. They're trying to go through a cultural change. And the hardest thing, I know, but the hardest thing to get people to do is to change poor behavior, because they've always been rewarded negatively for poor behavior, and they think that's positive.
That's right.
Yeah.
So in that sense, what do you mean by emotional intelligence? Because this is directly going into how they seek attention.
I'll tell you, I came up with that crazy phrase, bouncing stuff off of other people that I knew. And they said, what are you trying to do? I said, we want to control their emotional and behavioral intelligence. What is that? That's when, before you do anything, you think. It sounds so silly and trite to say count to 10.
No, it doesn't.
Sing a song. Do something. But your first reaction is never your best reaction to any situation that hits you, be it positive or negative.
Particularly if it's an emotional reaction.
Oh, absolutely.
Particularly if it's an angry
emotional reaction.
My father taught me a long time ago, do not get mad particularly in the ring. Do not get mad. You get mad in the ring, you're going to make a mistake and something bad's going to happen to you.
Any sport, you don't play well when you're mad. You can have ferocity, you can have high emotion, but once you're mad, you're no longer thinking.
And here you're also bringing administration and faculty into the culpability of student behaviors, because you say one of the foundations is to understand the culture of today's students.
Absolutely.
We have to understand where they're coming from to engage them, to understand how student conflicts escalate. They didn't just start right now.
They didn't start at the school. They didn't start at that moment. And I always like to tell faculty, because we have a program for effectively managing student conflict for school personnel, and we have positive parental involvement for schools, for parents and guardians. And what this does is to let the parent know that the anger the child is bringing to school is probably coming from either the community or the home itself. You know,
or from
children,
or from his peers, from something his peers did.
Well, most of
peers.
most of it is going to start in the home, because somebody say, man, if somebody at that school touches you,
That's
beat them up.
That's
And
right.
now
That's
they
right.
got from beat them up to take this 45 or
Right,
take
yeah.
this, all these fancy
that's where we
guns.
are now.
And that's where we are now.
In my
So,
day, it was fists. Now
yeah.
we're not talking about
meet,
that
meet me
anymore.
behind the school and we're going to
Yeah,
go
right,
knuckle up.
right, yeah.
You would be glad
remember-
to go knuckle up, other than
Amen.
you. Yeah.
I remember uncles and cousins and aunts coming
Up
during
to the school. Yeah.
because these vendettas are in the community, and it's actually part of intergenerational
Well, I've
violence.
had it happen.
Yeah.
I've
These
had
are vendettas between families.
I've had elder brothers or fathers, come wanting to get a teacher,
Yeah.
for something that the teacher did to their kid.
Violence is cyclical,
But,
and the minute you get
and-
to understand that, you start to think differently about
And
it.
I want everybody who's listening to this show to know that Blaine Smith has got this incredible program. But there's another program that Sunanda needs to ask him a couple of questions about, and that's the one on getting the schools clean. So, Sunanda, you wanted to ask him a couple of questions about that before we get into this
That's the one I
sports
emailed
thing.
you on.
Yeah, and you know what? It's so, because, I honestly just learned today about this program that you've been promoting to clean the schools during this COVID pandemic. This program is something that's been initiated by Black owners,
Yes.
right? And from what I understand, VD has closed our schools again until January 18th. And I understand.
I agree with him, by the way,
Here's the
for
thing.
doing that.
I understand that there's a safety issue, but if we can fix it,
That's the Detroit Public
if we
Schools.
can fix it, if we can clean the
Community
schools,
district.
then
Community
maybe we
district.
don't need to. Because I know a lot of suburban schools are closing, and a lot of private schools are closing, and public schools are closing because of the lack of a simple service, such as really cleaning the schools. Why aren't we having our Black vendors in here doing a job and setting a model for the rest of the country? Because Detroit can always set the model, and always has set the model for the rest of the country.
Well, I'm going to be sending this program to Dr. Vitti, and maybe he'll watch it and listen and consider using this program. As I understand it, Blaine, you've already sent it to him. If I'm not
I
mistaken.
sent it to Dr. Vitti and Dr. Ironetta Wright on the 20th of December, and it's an interesting program. I'm just a product representative for this, but the guy who I told him in the message you want to talk to is David Sullivan. David Sullivan is a friend of mine. He's a partner of ours, and we've been trying to do various things with the Detroit schools. And see, I'm a sales rep, and anybody, and I'm going to date myself with this one, I'm like Mr. Haney from Petticoat Junction. When I pull up, I got something I can sell you, whether you need a plow, whether you need a rake, whether you need a piglet. So in this case, I've tried to sell them the Blaine Smith and Associates student personal program. I've tried to do other things with them and got nixed.
Is there a phone number for that?
Yes, it is. David Sullivan. You can reach him at 630-465-0077, or you can call me and I can give you all the information on it. I'm at 313-330-3884, and my email is Blaine Smith, BLANESMITH at AOL.com. I'm so old I've never got off of AOL.com.
You're so old, man.
Please keep our
21 years older than you.
Please keep our majority Black schools open by using Black vendors who care about our children, who can keep our schools clean, and who can set an example for the rest of the nation.
And we're gonna bring.
Let's do that.
We're gonna bring in.
It's always been our burden.
We're gonna bring in majority trainers of your neighborhood. We once had the Chaldean School over on the northwest side, and we were able to find young Arab sisters and brothers to go in there, and the children see them in a professional setting,
That's right.
see that light. It was even educational to me, because as a sales rep, you're so quick to stick your hand out. I found out that a Muslim woman black, white, or whatever she is, she can't touch another man's hand
That's
other
right.
than her husband.
Yeah.
So I found that
She
out.
don't want to either, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Women do not like touching people all day.
Yeah.
You're talking about the northeast
It's
side of
always
Detroit,
belittle
right?
touching
Yes.
a person.
Okay, and
Always.
Blaine, give that number for Mr. Sullivan again.
David Sullivan, 630-465-0077.
And if you're watching this, please call Vidi. Please call your superintendent and ask him what vendors he's considering to clean the schools, and ask for a list.
Can I say just one thing? This program detects COVID-19.
God
It
demand it.
detects the variants, and it abates them inside the hallway, the classrooms, the locker rooms, the showers. This is an innovative program that we need, but me and Doc gets into this all the time. I'm tired of beating my head up against the wall. I'm comfortable. I can sit at home, cook me some good food, drink me some good drink, and watch my big screen TV, and I'm happy.
But
Yeah,
your
well.
conscience is itchy.
My conscience is itchy, but hey, I'm a sales rep. If you call me, I got a price for you.
Well,
And
that's-
you're watching the John Telford Show Detroit, coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe to us and our numerous other programmings here on one of the few black-owned platforms in Detroit. And thank you for watching WJZZ, the coolest TV station in the world. And today we have with us again the renowned, the indomitable Blaine Smith. Not just a hero in athleticism, but a hero for young kids across the community of Detroit.
And now, with that having been said, we're going to do what this program was supposed to be doing in the first place. And Blaine and I are supposed to be doing a sports show that features our poetry about athletes. Now, my poetry is probably going to be about track athletes who are local and boxers who are local, because these were my two sports, But Blaine will be more generic in his poetry. But I'm going to read a poem right now that I wrote about Blaine to start this little sports show, and it's called "No Fun." No fun is the title of this poem. Instead of getting tackled by Blaine Smith, the old linebacker, I'd rather be gang tackled by the biggest Green Bay Packers, or else get myself run over by a 20-ton tractor. And that's just a bit of hyperbole, if you know what hyperbole is. The figure of speech. It means exaggeration for effect, and that is a figure of speech which I have been teaching to my poetry students at Frederick Douglass Academy, and now I've got to do it, online for a while, or by remote, because of the COVID. But okay. And one other poem before Blaine launches into an athletic poem. This poem is called My Story. There have been many good women that I've chased. There have been many good causes I've embraced. There have been many great runners that I've raced. And I'm probably not going to be talking about those great runners that I've raced, because I'm just going to be talking about Detroit runners, and there are only a couple of great Detroit runners that I ever raced. But I did that. I did a show at the Embassy Suite hotel program that was sponsored by Sean Fair's
That leadership conference.
Yeah, that consulting group, and that was where I first read that poem. But with that having been said, Blaine, why don't you launch into a poem about athletes or athletics?
All right, I've got a poem. I volunteer coached at my high school back in the 80s, and I wasn't the head coach. So we were getting ready for our first game. The poem is dated 9/7/1982, and I would have liked to have said something, and since I wasn't the head coach, I couldn't. I sat down and I wrote this, that this is what I would have told the young guys about before they would have gone out to start exercising pregame. There are a great deal of things I could say to you, young men, this day. We are once again upon a game day quest, a football game, a moment of intense reckoning. We have worked, but only a game will let us know if as coaches and players, if we have worked hard enough. You may want to answer quickly with a yes, but the affirmation cannot be given until after the game. But first, football must be played. the plays executed, the game won or lost. In the next 2 hours, we will have to dedicate ourselves to the truth of winning. But there is a price for winning. Hard, tough work has been part of the price. For every play, every moment of every game, you must push yourself. Each play must have your maximum effort. Each of you should dedicate yourselves to playing at your peak, to the point of exhaustion, to the point where the game consumes you. Your every thought is to sacrifice for winning's sake. Will you play up to your potential? You are on the edge of greatness.
All right.
I just see so much of what you're doing with your poetry interlaced with what you got with your program. Because when you're talking about shifting gears in your mental state and being focused, you're really talking about issues of mental hygiene. And we don't use the word mental hygiene anymore. But without mental hygiene, you don't get to that emotional intelligence, understanding what you're reacting to, for, against, and what you want at the end, not to be manipulated, right?
You've got to control the emotional state because that drives everything. And what drives the emotional state is how well are you prepared for what you want to do. I don't care if it's chess club, tiddlywinks, track. I don't care what your endeavor is, physics, mathematics. You could just want to be the dance champ of the school. You ain't going to walk in there on one record, your first dance, and win. That only happens in a movie, and those aren't even good movies.
What's the Chinese definition of luck? Being prepared for an opportunity?
Yeah, when preparation meets opportunity. That's what luck is.
Boy Scouts, be prepared.
Always. I was a Boy Scout. Always be prepared.
So was I, but I wasn't a good Boy Scout. I only made second class, and we used to go out. The church sponsored us, and we used to go out in the alley. Yeah, we used to go out in the alley and fight. And so finally they put a ring down the basement of the church and started up a boxing club, and that was how I ended up winning the Detroit Golden Gloves welterweight. But that was way back in 1951. But anyway, here's my turn for a poem. And this poem is called Bullet Billy Smith. And I wrote this poem in 1958. Bullet Billy Smith, by the way, held a world hurdling record. He ran on that 880-yard relay team that won at the Ohio relays and the Penn relays, along with Cliff Hatcher and this guy from the islands named Ralph Williams. And those guys could run. Let me tell you, Cliff Hatcher held the quarter-mile record for the state, the high school quarter-mile record for 20 years. He ran a 48.8 in 1951. Unbelievable. He was my best friend until he died, 2006. But anyway, Billy was on that relay team. And that relay team, we won at the Ohio relays and at the Penn relays. And we won twice, 2 years in a row at the Ohio relays. And we beat Michigan State. I mean, this was Little Wayne State, kicking ass, let me tell you. And Billy had a tendency to brag. He used to boast all the time about how fast he was, and he indeed was fast because he ran 100 yards in 9 5/10 seconds, and that at the time was only 0.2 of a second over the world record of 9.3. So Billy could run, but I just got so sick of hearing him brag that one day I said, Billy, I'm going to race you in 100 yards. I'm going to beat you. He said, you can't beat me, John. I raced him 100 yards, and I wrote a poem about that race. The race was 1958. Now this poem doesn't rhyme, but it scans. Billy was a 9,500 man. Tired of listening to him brag, I said, I'm going to beat you, Billy. And I did. You didn't win that 100 race, said he. All 7 judges said I did, said I. They're wrong. No, they're all wrong, he raged at me. Our coach showed him a Polaroid and said, look, Billy, John's at least a foot ahead. Wrong angle, Billy angrily observed. I'd had a fast start, though, and his was slow. If we had raced the 100 10 more times, I must admit he surely would have won. If not all 10, then 9 of them for sure. But you know what? The time of that 100 race was 9.7. I won that race in 9 7/10 seconds, which was a decent time for me. But Billy got a bad start. But I think I shook him up. I think I had him shaken up enough so that he got that bad start. And you know what? I managed to get him right at the tape. He was already leaning. But
He leaned too
I didn't
fast.
lean until the last second. I went, boop, and I got him.
You want to thrust through.
Yeah, that's what's happened. Your turn for a poem.
All right, this is going to be a long one. I actually wrote this poem, and I very seldom do this. During all the tumultuous craziness of the pandemic and the George Floyd murder and the uprisings that was across the nation. Yeah. So this is going to be sort of long. Okay. I actually entered this into a program. A young lady in Chicago, Valda Staten, she's a Notre Dame grad and a Notre Dame law school grad and a lawyer now. She listens to my poem. Her mom likes them, and she said, "You need to enter a program." So this is a serious poem that I wrote. So bear with me. It's a little bit long, but you'll see where we go. The name of this poem, and I never name my poems, is As I Sit with the World. As I sit with the world in flames over a black man. Not the first by far, but this time it's on camera. With a name, George Floyd, murdered before the world and our very eyes. Not whipped to death 400 years ago, not drowned on a slave ship, discovered out to sea before it was about to be boarded. Not worked to death or raped, female or male, by a slave owner that had no morals. Not all of the ways we have ever been slayed does the world cry for us now. Can you feel why every indigenous person has felt and known I may have been stolen and brought to this land that is not my ancestral home? But now my oppressors task me to help them make the stolen land their shining home, and I sit with the world. I can feel, see, and hear our pain. Reliving it with all the Africans captured, I'm there. My one desire, as I've been trained as a warrior by you, Sunday school, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, book clubs, Boy Scouts, patrol boys, safety guard, awkward in gym class. But I began to grow into myself. Football, all the practices, wrestling, basketball, all the practices, baseball and track. Find a sport and make it your own. All of you have cheered me. I grew to love the adoration. Early in GI, which stands for Gary, Indiana, all the Gary people know that. The community, the crowd was there. Chocolate City, no worries, no cares. Moving on to college and pros, a true connection, never would I have known. Some would cheer, not for the person, but for the game jersey, the uniform they held dear. I played all out, I left no doubt. Superior play, I was made that way. In the game, I was praised by all. But after the game, I noticed something quaint, that if I stood as a man, that's what I am. Played and graduated from Purdue. Played a little in the NFL too. It's apparent now that some of my teammates will hate I played the game with you at all.
Yeah, man.
This is a Greek tragedy.
Yeah.
That's an amazing poem. It hurts.
Yeah,
oh,
you're
it
right.
hurts, it grabs, it says everything. But I wrote this at a time when I was sort of pissed off, and I'm not a guy who gets pissed off because I believe in emotional and behavioral intelligence. I often tell Doc, you don't want me pissed off. You want me cooking, you want me drinking, you might want me to roll the fatty, but you don't want me to get pissed off, because then that all-star guy comes out, and he's hard to deal with.
And who would want to get tackled by this guy?
Yeah.
He's 6'5", 240 pounds. And when I was in high school, I was playing at 158 pounds.
You were a wide receiver, though.
No, I wasn't a wide receiver. I was a defensive back and a running back.
Yeah, but back in the day, in the day they called you guys a running back, but today you'd have been a slot back or a flanker.
They called us a halfback.
What they called us. But you know what? I looked something up because I was telling you about that incident I had with Mel Gray, who played for the Lions.
Trackman, Mel Gray.
Yeah, but listen to this. When he was in the pros, guess how big he was?
How big?
I looked at it. 5'9", 187.
Yeah, well, he built up to 187.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. See,
Yeah.
you was talking high school 157. If you'd have went on to college and progressed, you'd have been, they'd have pumped you up and beefed you up. Well, not in you guys' days because they hadn't started lifting weights. The weightlifting started with the 1970 Miami Dolphins when they went 17-0. That started everybody to lifting. Everybody went to the gym. Everybody would throw hay bales, throw bricks, but then they went into the gym and got a regimented build a human. When I went to Purdue, and I'll let you go because I know it's got to be time for a commercial. Yes, I was six. Yeah, I was 6'2.5", 211. When I left Purdue, I was 6'5", 248. I had big brothers and sisters, but I got out of 8 boys, I ended up growing to be the tallest boy and the heaviest boy.
And now you got a son who's 6'9".
Yeah, 6'9", 6'10", but he's a brainiac.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the best way to be.
And you're
Commercial.
watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe to us and other top programming offered to you on WJZZ, the coolest TV station in the world. And today we're interviewing Blaine Smith, a legendary football figure, as well as a legend in Detroit as well. And so I kind of want to ask you, if you don't mind mining through your
My
own
turn
personal...
for a poem, though.
Well, let's
My
go with this.
turn.
Let's go with
All
this
right,
next
go ahead.
question.
Ask her.
Yeah.
Ask her. Ask him, I mean.
I kind of want to, because you kind of made a similarity between you and George Floyd.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On the one hand, and on the other hand, you're talking about how America pushed you to become one of the greatest examples of masculinity, right? Which we call white supremacy and white power. What do you think about all of that? When you
Well,
talk about being indigenous and stolen and the
that's-
talent stolen to be...
That's the
Yeah.
funny part about what that poem was about. You wanted me on the football field. You wanted me to be so voracious and so tough that I could change a game in one play.
Yeah.
But what you never wanted me to be was a graduate of Purdue University in 4 years, because it takes, now I heard it takes 5 or 6. And
They try to keep it longer.
And some of my roommates even did 5 at Purdue, but that's another story. But it's amazing the way, as African American, as a black person, as a minority person, they love to see you on the field of endeavor, as they call it. But where they don't want you to compete is in the classroom and in the job market. I'm going to tell a quick story, and then Doc can read his poem. I'm out of the NFL, and I'm working at Inland Steel, and I'm in management. And the general foreman, I had been there about 3-4 years, never missed a day. And the general foreman finally moved me up to senior turn foreman, and he said, Blaine, we're moving you up to senior turn foreman. We know you can control the Mexicans, the Puerto Ricans, and the blacks, and the few women, because the stores and trucking department had just had 2 women truck drivers. I was one of the few guys could talk to them and make sense and not be, hey, baby, hey, honey, all that old foolishness. Yeah. And so while we were in his office, I said, let me make a phone call. I called Frank W. Lorison, the CEO of Inland Steel at the time, who was a Purdue alumnus who I knew through football. And I said, hey, Frank, it's Blaine. And Don Chisholm said, you call him Frank? I said, yeah, I call him Frank. Frank said, Blaine, what's up? How's it going over at the Inland Steel stores and trucking? I said, hey, they told me that all I can manage is the Puerto Ricans, the Mexicans, the women's, and the blacks. He said, put that guy on. I said, he can hear you. And after that, they had a little bit different feeling about me because they knew I knew somebody. But if I wouldn't have known anybody, a young guy after me came out of Purdue, business engineer, James Holliday. I'd see him on Facebook now. I tried to tutor him at Inland, but since he didn't have my background, he didn't fit Inland's program. Okay, go ahead, Doc.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to try to remember what I was going to.
You were going to do a poem.
Yeah, okay. Well, actually, you were talking about hard training.
Yes.
One of your poems.
Yes.
And it reminds me. I went down to Wayne State on a track scholarship. Now, I had never lost a 100-yard dash when I was running in the Detroit Public Schools. So I figured, well, I'll go down and I'll win a lot of 100-yard dashes. I'll win the conference, which I did, by the way. I won the 100-yard conference in a 100-yard dash. But we had a great coach down there named David L. Holmes. He was a Hall of Fame coach. And he said to me, first question he asked me was, do you want to be conference 100-yard champion, or do you want to be national quarter-mile champion? And I told him, I want to be conference 100-yard champion. I do not want any part of that quarter mile. That quarter mile hurts. I only run 2 of them in high school, and that is a very painful race. He said, well, I got news for you, son. You are going to be a quarter miler. And this I wanted to talk about track. I wanted to have poems about track. I wanted to have poems about boxing, because that was another of my major sports, and probably would have been even more of a major sport if I had done it. But my father, forced me to do that when I was a young kid. But I want to read a poem.
Forced you into becoming a champion. I mean, you didn't box
Doc,
because you were forced to. You won a couple titles.
Yeah, Doc.
I won one title in boxing.
Yeah, one of the Golden Gloves.
Yeah, it was a welterweight in 1951.
Oh, just the Golden Gloves, huh?
Yeah,
just tough. Yeah, it's amateur. But anyway, I want to read a poem called Ali Boumaier. Ali Boumaier.
That's so sad. That goes back to your theme. Let's do it. This is perfect. It wraps back around.
And that poem is in the Lifelong Poetic Prancings of Mad John. The Lifelong Poetic Prancings of Mad John, which is my first poetry book. I got a second one coming out.
Is that Barnes & Noble?
No, this is Detroit Inc. Detroit Inc. Published this book. The next book is going to be published by Page Publishing. But anyway, Ali Boumaier. Okay, and here's a poem. The greatest was what he purported to be. He was in his day the fine boxer Ali, a consummate showman most definitely. Yet greatest or not, on his very best night, he might not have won a time-traveling fight with Joe Louis. Any commentary on that?
Yeah,
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, he's too fast for Joe Louis. Joe Louis couldn't even catch Ali. If they both were in their prime and they both went at it heads up, and see, they have all of these computerized fights now, and you can never take people from 2 eras, but Ali was one of the athletes. Jim Brown, Ali, Lou Alcindor, who became Lou Alcindor, who became famous with the Lakers, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Those were the guys that I idolized and grew up with, and that was during that whole "I'm black and I'm proud" movement when we went from being colored to black.
But that was the irony, and it comes right back to the heart of your poem, because even as this was happening, we had the Rumble in the Jungle.
Absolutely.
And that tore George Foreman's heart apart.
Well,
isn't he a black man too? Was the question, right? So this tokenism, they put Ali on top of everybody, just like they put you on top of everybody.
Got to play the thing.
Oh, that means we got 2 minutes left.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? And so here, you're a champion, just like Ali was a champion, and they try to use him to keep other black folk down in the sport.
I'll tell you, it's a funny world, because sometimes as athletes, we fall into being used just by who we are. And that was the beef between Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali all through their 3 epic fights, was that Muhammad Ali would never respect Joe Frazier as a black person, because
I said Joe Foreman.
George Foreman. I knew who you meant.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
But no, I knew who you meant, because I grew up watching that era.
I'm
and,
so
and
sorry.
I'm a Muhammad Ali fan. But even his daughter said in the Ken Burns documentary that just aired on PBS that he was wrong for that, but he was in his self and in his motivation self, and he couldn't come out. I know it because as an athlete, sometimes I'll go down that ugly road of trying to destroy an opponent, and I can't let it go until the game is over, until the whistle blows.
Whistle blows. Your
until
character
the whistle
keeps
blows,
going.
I can't let it go.
Ali outsmarted and outsped Foreman in that fight. Foreman hit incredibly hard. If he had ever landed a couple times really hard on Ali, that'd have been all she wrote. But he couldn't do it.
But that's what our people didn't know about Ali. He could take a punch, and that's why he ended up in the condition.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Too many punches.
Yeah, toward the end of his career, they couldn't hit him at the beginning.
So, do you have a final poem?
Well, I was going to do one, but I don't know if I was going to do one.
So, do we have like any last words or final poem, final idea? Because there's just this has just been so damn juicy.
I have some last words. Just a quick poem. Don't be a dummy who hesitated. Hasten to get yourself vaccinated. We need immunity in our community. And right now, we have got... Oh, you're going to do the... Okay, we got stupidity in our community. Anyway, go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
Can't have a democracy without some stupidity to be exercised.
Yeah, and you got to know how to handle those people. I finally got a chance to get that coin.
And you've been listening to the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford and your co-host, Dr. Sunanda Samadar Corrado on WJZZ Cool TV on Thursdays. Oh, now it's on Wednesdays from 10 to 11 on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. It was the late, great Dr. Wayne Dyer who said, Dr. John Telford has a warrior's heart and a poet's soul. Please listen in again to Dr. John Telford on WCHB AM 1340 Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. And please tune in again next time with us Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. And thank you, Detroit.